This is NBC 10 News Sunrise.
Now appears speed may have been a factor in that awful train derailment that took 7 lives in Philadelphia the other night. We have a report on that in just a moment. And we also have a report on how Rhode Island area officials have prepared for a crash like that. And it's first full day of deliberations in the Boston Marathon bombing trial sentencing phase. Those are some of the day's top news stories. With details on those items and a lot of other stuff to come up in just a moment. Carrie Corrado's outside the Providence train station again today. She'll have the latest on the investigation of the Amtrak derailment. Molly O'Brien's got the traffic, and look at that beautiful sunrise behind Kelly Love, huh?
Look at this. It's amazing. It's beautiful. This is out our People's Credit Union Skycam network this morning, live at the Coast Guard House restaurant in Narragansett. I posted this on Facebook twice because it is so nice out there this morning. It is a little chilly, though. Right now we're at 47 degrees. Winds are out of the west-northwest around 5 miles per hour. Humidity at 59%. And we are feeling the chill in some spots. Check this out. Taunton at 35 degrees, Coventry 39, as well as Chepachet. We're seeing the low 40s down toward Warwick, Westerly, Newport, Little Compton, mid-40s for the most part. And a frost advisory is in place until 7 a.m. in these areas you see in the purple. That extends into northern Bristol County, northern Plymouth County as well, with the exclusion of those coastal spots. Now, the satellite and radar picture is going to stay quiet across the board today. However, there's a lot of rain off to our west, really across the Great Plains. Doesn't look too stormy at this point. By the time it gets here, it will bring us a chance of rain, but it may not impact you too much this weekend. I'll talk more about it coming up. But now Molly has a look at the traffic. Molly?
Thank you, Kelly. Good morning, everyone. Here's a look at 95 making your way northbound and that southbound side at the Thurber's Avenue curve. Right now, traffic very light out there. Let's take a look at some road work happening. That left lane will be closed for bridge work on 295 southbound right now until about 6 o'clock between exits 1 and 2. Frank?
All right, Molly, now more than 24 hours after that deadly commuter rail crash in Philadelphia, NTSB investigators are still on the scene trying to piece together what happened. They say they've already uncovered some important information about the victims and about the man who was driving the train at the time of the crash, the engineer. NBC 10's Carrie Corrado's outside the Providence train station again this morning. Carrie?
Good morning, Frank. Investigators say the train was traveling more than 100 miles per hour. That is 2 times the speed limit. So they believe speed may be a factor in this deadly train accident. So investigators are still on the scene this morning, going through all that debris and wreckage here. It's been more than 24 hours. They're also expanding their search area because they believe some passengers may have been ejected from the train. Mayor Michael Nutter of Philadelphia said they will not stop until they are certain. They went through every piece of debris and every train car. A total of 7 people died and more than 200 people were injured. Doctors say they treated a lot of rib fractures. And for the survivors of Amtrak Train 188, it was a moment of horror, and the pictures from the scene show just that. And among those who were killed was 20-year-old midshipman at the U.S. Naval Academy. And here's a look at some of the other victims. Some passengers are still unaccounted for this morning. Many family members are desperately waiting to see if their loved ones are okay, and others, like the midshipman's mother, are left heartbroken.
He was his high school valedictorian and was just finishing up his 2nd year as midshipman at the United States Naval Academy. He was a loving son, nephew, and cousin who was very community-minded. This tragedy has shocked us all in the worst way, and we wish to spend his time grieving with our close family and friends.
We are also learning new information about the train's engineer. Investigators believe he may know how and why the train derailed. So we will have more on that coming up in the next half hour. But we are live in Providence this morning. Carrie Corrado, NBC 10 News.
And NBC 10's Tony Gugliotta has a report now about how Rhode Island officials have prepared for awful accidents like the one in Philadelphia.
The Philadelphia tragedy is opening the eyes of train operators and state management agencies all over the country. Here in Rhode Island, the state works closely with Amtrak to keep up with safety standards.
Amtrak wants to make sure that they have connected with local and state, again, emergency managers and first responders to make sure that they can respond in the quickest, most efficient manner.
Emergency management officials have conducted 3 disaster drills in the last 5 years to prepare for the worst. They also have every inch of track around the state documented.
We've actually walked every single mile of rail in Rhode Island.
But can something like this be prevented? This NBC animation shows what likely happened in Philadelphia. The train's engineer, Brandon Bastian, applied the emergency braking mechanism on the train when it was traveling 106 miles an hour, too fast to make the curve.
Maximum authorized speed through this curve was 50 miles per hour.
Could technology have prevented this crash? Many think so. But just hours after the crash, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives approved a $251 million cut to Amtrak's budget, something that Democrats say will hamper efforts to improve infrastructure by adding systems like positive train control that govern speed.
We feel that had such a system been installed in this section of track, this accident would not have occurred.
NBC 10 efforted to reach out to Congressman Jim Langevin in Washington last night, but he was unavailable to speak with us about those budget cuts. In Providence, Tony Gugliotta, NBC 10 News.
The fate of Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev is now in the hands of the jury. They'll return later today at federal court in Boston for their first full day of deliberations after yesterday's closing arguments. The prosecutor used graphic photos and strong language to get his point across. The defense continued their argument that it was the older brother, not Dzhokhar, responsible for all of the mayhem at the marathon finish line that awful day. Today at 5 p.m. is the deadline for Tom Brady to file an appeal in his Deflategate suspension. There is word that Brady's appeal has been drafted already by the Players Union and will be filed at some point today. And Brady has retained a highly regarded sports attorney who's helped other NFL players in other difficult situations. Jeffrey Kessler, you just saw his photo, represented both Ray Rice and Adrian Peterson when both of those players appealed their suspensions for violating the league's conduct policy. Commissioner Roger Goodell is expected to appoint an arbitrator to hear the appeal. It's 5:37 in the morning now, Thursday, May 14th. In a moment, the story of the Providence family members who were real frustrated because of a sign the city put in front of their front yard. And we have some new information to pass along today about the Takata airbag scandal. It's growing list of recalls, still more over fears of the faulty airbags. And Kelly's here, of course, with the weather.
That's right. We are cool and dry to start the morning, but we are expecting some changes. I'll tell you what that means for your weekend coming up.
Let's pause from today's news coverage now and do something fun. Let's say good morning to Kerry Pendergast of North Kingstown, the newest member of our internationally renowned Early Risers Club. Good morning, Kerry. We're glad you're on board with us. If you want to get your name announced on the air, and a lot of people do, just go to your Facebook page, tell us who you are and where you're from before 5:30 in the morning. Do that, please, on the NBC 10 Facebook page. That's all it takes.
Closed captioning on NBC 10 is brought to you by Cardi's Furniture. Nairobi offers same-day mattress eye delivery 7 days a week.
Time now, 19 minutes before 6 o'clock. If you live in Providence or have driven to or through the city lately, you've probably noticed there are a lot of signs up for a road improvement project. Well, one Providence family says they're not happy about the fact one of those signs was posted right in front of their house. NBC 10's Olivia Fecto reports.
Joshua Tercera and his family are proud of his grandparents' house and garden.
They take great care of their home. They take great pride in their home.
But Tercera has other words to describe the sign that's posted outside the home on New York Avenue.
Annoying, it's a nuisance, it's ugly.
And he says a safety hazard. Nearly 2 years ago, the couple received a letter about a road improvement project on their street. That's when the sign went up. Tercera saw it months later.
I was not happy to see it. I wanted to cut it down the moment I got here.
His grandparents say they've been calling the number listed on the letter ever since, the Department of Public Works.
They've been told several times that someone was going to come down and take it down, but it hasn't happened.
The only change, a new mayor's name. I took their concerns to the city to find out whether they've logged any complaints. The city says it hasn't had any sign removal requests in this area. I'm told there is a process for people to report issues to the city's Office of Neighborhood Services, or ONS, by calling 421-CITY. The ONS then opens a case for the complaint. In this case, the city says it only became aware of the issue Wednesday when I called. Tercera says he wants to see the sign removed as soon as possible.
They're obviously elderly. Their English isn't great. If something were to happen, it's a complete impedance on any emergency services or what have you that would have to come.
The city says now that it's aware of this issue, it's planning to send someone out to take the sign down. I'm told the city is also working to streamline the process for reporting complaints like this one. In Providence, Olivia Fecto, NBC 10 News.
The man wanted by Woonsocket police for armed sexual assault is supposed to appear in Brockton District Court later today. 36-year-old Reynaldo Rios of Boston was arrested yesterday by Brockton police following a police investigation. Rios is accused of raping a 19-year-old woman at gunpoint after they met online. The attack allegedly took place behind a dumpster here at the Morin Heights housing complex in Woonsocket. He's supposed to be arraigned on fugitive charges in Brockton today before he's transported to Rhode Island to face more charges. Providence police are searching for the passenger who punched a RIPTA bus driver. These are surveillance pictures from last Wednesday around 7 a.m. Police say the man punched the driver in the face as he got off at Broad and Ontario streets in Providence. He's described as a man in his 20s and is believed to be Hispanic. He appears to be about 5'7". Former Rhode Island crime boss Luigi Baby Shack's Monacchio is back in Rhode Island. The NBC 10 News I-Team reports he's back living at an apartment on Federal Hill. Monacchio came back to Rhode Island after he was released from a federal prison in North Carolina. He's on home confinement and not living at a halfway house as previously thought. Prison officials say he checked in with that halfway house this week. He spent more than 4 years in federal prison for extorting payments from strip club owners in the Providence area. Hillary Clinton will visit the Ocean State in an effort to raise money for her current bid for president. Rhode Island Public Radio reports Clinton will hold a fundraiser next month at Democrat activist Mark Weiner's East Greenwich home. Two of her campaign officials visited Providence last month to establish her Rhode Island headquarters. In April, Governor Gina Raimondo announced she plans to support Clinton even if former Rhode Island Governor Lincoln Chafee decides to run. Chafee says he's formed an exploratory committee in a run for president. The unclear gambling casino picture in Massachusetts could possibly become a little more clear today. State gaming regulators are supposed to meet in Boston today, where, among other things, they're supposed to discuss casino proposals in Brockton, New Bedford, and Somerset. On Tuesday of this week, Brockton voters approved a proposed $650 million casino development plan for the city's fairgrounds, although now anti-casino activists say they'll ask for a recount. Meanwhile, in New Bedford, they say they're ready to move forward with a gambling casino plan there, and in Somerset, officials are asking for a little more time to prove they have the financial backing. The Senate Committee on Finance in Rhode Island will be meeting today at the State House to discuss several proposed budget recommendations for both 2015 and 2016. One bill to be discussed calls for new tax incentives and economic capital programs that would promote and expand economic development in the state. Another piece of legislation calls for the elimination of the sales tax on alcoholic beverages other than beer and malt beverages, but it does call for an increase in the tax on beer, spirits, and wine. Honda has recalled nearly 5 million cars that may be equipped with faulty airbags. The recall covers 14 models produced between the years 2002 and 2008. Honda officials say more than 3 million of the cars were sold outside of Japan. At issue, of course, are the airbags manufactured by Japan-based Takata. Earlier this week, executives at Toyota and Nissan recalled more than 6 million cars for the same reason. Tens of millions of cars equipped with those Takata airbags have been recalled by automakers recently over fears the airbags may explode and send shrapnel flying at drivers and passengers. At least 5 deaths have since been linked to Takata's malfunctioning airbags. Officials at Brown University have announced the historic Bannister home near the Brown campus will be fully renovated and returned to its original wood exterior this summer. The school officials announced yesterday that the home, built in 1854, will be sold to a Brown faculty or staff member after the renovations are complete as part of what they call the Brown to Brown program. The home was named in honor of celebrated African-American painter Edward Mitchell Bannister, who rented the home between 1884 and 1889. Hey, it's exactly 5:47 in the morning now. Time to check the traffic, Molly.
Thank you, Frank. Good morning, everyone. Route 24 looking A-OK this morning. Route 140 starting to slow down right around Stevens Street before you hop onto 24. 44 looks fine. 495 looks fine as well this morning. We'll pull out the map, get a wider shot here. 140 into and out of New Bedford looks again just fine. 195 is smooth right all the way out to the Cape if you're making your way westbound through Fall River. A great ride for you this morning. Smooth going on Route 24 here at this Conant River Bridge. We're looking at it from the Tiverton side. Beautiful morning so far, and Kelly's here to tell us about what the weather's like today and what it will be like as we inch closer to the weekend. Hi, Kelly.
Hey, good morning, Molly. Well, I've got another gorgeous shot of the sunrise for you to kick things off. Maybe put you in a good mood as you're heading outside on this Thursday morning or Friday Eve. Looking at the positive here. It is 5:47 and the sun is up. We're looking at our People's Credit Union Skycam Network live at the Coast Guard House restaurant in Narragansett. You can see the birds flying by, enjoying the sunrise as well. Right now we're at 47 degrees, so it is a little chilly out there. Winds out of the west-northwest at 5 miles per hour. Humidity at 59%, so overall not too bad. We're pretty dry out there, but temperatures are cold. Well, cold relatively speaking, of course. Right now we're at 39 in Coventry, 39 in Chepachet as well. It's 35 in Taunton. Mid to upper 40s for the majority of the area. It's 47 in Providence, Charlestown, and Newport. 44 down in Westerly, Warwick at 42. Now, we are under a frost advisory until 7 a.m. in these areas you see in the purple. Northern Bristol County through northern Plymouth County, with the exception of those coastal spots that extends up to the north. So don't want that to catch you off guard if you see some frost on the windshield outside this morning or your plants. Satellite radar picture, though, very quiet, not dealing with any clouds, no rain, no snow, but we do have a pretty big system that's going to be working its way to the east as we go through the rest of the week. Meantime, we should stay dry and quiet, but you see all this rain that extends all the way from the Dakotas down through Mississippi at this hour will be working its way eastward as we go into your Friday. However, high pressure is planted over our area. That's why we've got this big ridge of dry air. It's a dry air mass, and it's going to stay over the top of us for the majority of today and for tomorrow as well. So we'll keep those cooler temperatures in place. Then as this front kind of works its way to the east, that will drive in enough moisture to bring us the potential for some showers. Looks light for the most part, and it will be in the early part of your Saturday. So don't let it spoil your weekend plans, but you do need to factor it in because we are expecting that for the weekend. If you're headed out today, though, it will be a little cooler than average by a degree or so not too bad. Mostly sunny. By 12 o'clock, we should be at 67 degrees in inland spots. 4 o'clock, 66. Coastal areas, a little cooler, topping out in the low 60s under a mostly sunny sky. If you're headed out on the bay, we are expecting winds out of the northwest to the west around 5 to 10 knots. Waves 2 to 3 feet. High tide right at 5:32 this afternoon. Low tide around 10:45 this morning. Sunset tonight 3 minutes before 8. And here's how, just a recap of your 7-day forecast. Mostly sunny today and tomorrow, a high near 72 for your Friday. Slight chance of showers on Saturday. Then we're partly sunny to kick off next week. Frank?
All right, Kelly, I'll be back in a moment with more of today's news and in Flashback, the first of a memorable series of marches that wound up advocating both sides in the gun debate.
Plan your day with Storm Team 10. Weather coverage you trust, on air and weekday mornings on 94 WJAR.
15 years ago today, May 14th in the year 2000, was Mother's Day. But instead of being pampered by spouses and children, many mothers on that day chose to travel to Washington, D.C. to participate in a first-of-its-kind event. It was called the Million Moms March to advocate gun control. Here's today's Flashback.
It wasn't a million, but tens of thousands of moms jammed the mall.
Gun control! Now!
They were led by VIPs, joined by fathers and sons, and many moms pushed strollers.
Save our kids! Save our kids!
March MC was Rosie O'Donnell.
30,000 people are shot dead every year in this country. Over 4,000 of them are children.
There is an opposite point of view that more gun control would violate our freedoms and would make life more dangerous for kids. And a smaller group of moms marched to say that this morning.
It's our right!
The Second Amendment sisters said bearing arms is protected by the Constitution.
Traveling all night on a bus and rallying in the heat on the crowded National Mall might not be everyone's idea of the perfect way to spend Mother's Day. But many of the women leaving Providence last night have a personal stake in the issue of gun control.
My mother isn't here this Mother's Day. She was shot and killed 25 years ago.
But gun control is an issue with many shades of gray. This woman may have lost her mother, but she's been a long-standing member of the NRA.
I respect very much the way the NRA taught people to respect their guns.
So on that day and on many days since then, all aspects of the gun control controversy are under. And the style of the event was modeled after the Million Man March from 5 years earlier in 1995, urging men to live up to their responsibilities as husband, father, and citizen. And the reporters in that story from the year 2000 are Steve Handelsman, still reporting for NBC News in Washington, and Kelly McGee, who obviously worked for NBC 10 News at the time. She's no longer in the TV news business today. And that's Flashback. One of today's top news stories now at 4 minutes to 6 involves the fallen hero who will be laid to rest later today. 34-year-old Officer Benjamin Dean was killed in the line of duty last weekend in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. A funeral service will be held later this morning. He is survived by his wife and 2 children. Dean and Officer Liguri Tate were making a routine traffic stop last Saturday night when they were shot and killed. So far, 5 people have been arrested in connection with the deaths of those 2 officers, and the gun control debate may arise anew after that awful incident in Mississippi. We're back in just a moment with more of today's news, including the penalty phase in the marathon trial,